All right, guys, here we go. So I have solved the riddle of this degenerate point model, and it did take quite a while after class to put together a strategy that I think could solve this sort of thing that we ran into during class. And so what I have here is just this is the nightmare file that I sent you guys, and I was really kind of surprised, but also happy at the end of class that uh, this thing sort of solved itself. I did a number of undos, and somehow I got myself back to the point where we were able to achieve a pretty good tangency across this mirror. And I had kind of left the class off thinking, all right, well, at least that problem was solved. Next move is to just figure out how it happened. And when I got home and I started to evaluate this surface even more, I kind of lost faith in it, to be honest with you. And evaluating this thing using these zebra stripes, you start to see that there's a lot of stuff going down right in this sort of pocket right here, right where you've got this boundary surface that comes across here, and we've got that knit surface that comes here, another boundary surface across here. There's this dip right here in the zebra stripes, and if we zoom in on it, it's just looking really, really ugly. And you start to notice that, yeah, we do see a fair amount of tangency across this transition here, but then as we zoom in on this kind of these three surfaces coming together right here, we notice that there's a really big issue with the tangency there. And whatever this sort of hiccup is right there, I don't know if that's really the kind of thing that we want in our model. And looking at it from a couple of different perspectives, I realized that we've still got this issue going on where there's like a bulge here, where the surface knit is really kind of bulging out on us, and it's not acting correctly. And so what I did is I always do this when it comes to 3D modeling. When I get to a point where I'm stumped, what I'll do is I'll go back to the drawing board. I will backpedal all the way to the very start of the model and try to think of what successes I had along the way and what things really failed on me. And one of the things that helped out in this scenario was the concept of adding reference surfaces, okay, or construction surfaces. And if you go in here and you take a look at what we did, I'm just going to delete the mirror right here, and we'll take a look at this model. I'll turn zebra stripes off. I had made this surface extrude here. I'm going to show that for you. I've got it colored pink just for demonstration purposes. And so this was our main profile curve that we started out with. It's the profile curve that goes here. And you just make a straight surface extrude off of that curve. And what that does for you is it allows you a surface that you can use to create tangency from your boundary surfaces to this surface, from your surface fill to this surface. And then if you need to, from this boundary surface here, you can create tangency to this surface too. It's a piece of construction surface. So it's a straight surface. We know it's totally straight, so when this thing mirrors across, it should mirror well, and it did in class. But I felt like that was a big win for this procedure that we came up against. And so when I got home and I started really thinking about this thing, and I started noticing this odd kind of lump in the model, I started thinking, I just kind of want to go all the way back to the drawing board on this thing and really take a look at the line work that we started with and see if there's an easier way to do this. Because this concept of having a boundary surface here, a surface knit here, a surface fill here, and another boundary here, that's doable, but it's also very complicated, and it makes for a messy situation. It's hard to keep track of when things go wrong, and you need to kind of evaluate which ways to move forward with. So I started with a brand new file, and that's what I'm going to do for you guys here, okay? I'm just going to recreate this because honestly it doesn't take that long when you start from scratch. The saying is, anytime you can start from scratch on a project that you failed at previously, it's always going to take you half the time it did in the first place. So if you spend an hour on this in the first place, then it's going to take you half an hour this time. So I'm just starting out with the main profile curve here, and I just want to go to this profile curve and set up a horizontal relationship. Remember how to do that. You just click on the curve, and wherever you see this little diamond, you can right click on that and you can set up relationships right on that control handle there. And then I just adjust this curve to be whatever I like. I'm just paying attention to the kind of dive of this curve right here. Just making really close attention that the point here is in line with the origin of my model. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm later going to build my profile curve off of here and then another profile curve over here. And I want to build everything off of the origin. Okay. All right, good. So there's my first profile curve just like that. Okay. There we go. All right. Now, with that done, I can go here and I can draw something on the right plane. I can draw my side profile plane. But before I do that, I'm remembering back to in class, and I'm remembering it was this surface extrude. If I go to the surfaces tab and extrude a straight surface off of this sketch, there we go. That was the big win for what we learned in class. So I want to get that out of the way right now. So I'm just going to set up a 20 millimeter surface extrude straight off of that curve. Okay, and you can see how that works. It just pushes a surface right off the curve in a straight direction, just like that. Very easy. Okay, and now I can go to my front plane and I can build the side profile. So let me zoom in here. Okay. Just about like that. And remember, I'm drawing my profile curves away from the surface and away from the sketch driving the surface because I want to set up very specific relationships between this sketch and this surface and sketch. Okay. So for here, I'm going to click on the point, and then I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to click on the curve, and I'm going to go Make Pierce. And I'm going to pierce this sketch to this sketch. Okay. Now, the next move that I make is very important, and this is a thing that we didn't touch on too much in class, and we definitely didn't do this in class, and I think this has a lot to do with creating tangency when we mirror later on. And it has to do with setting up this curve here, this curve right there like that one, and creating tangency or creating curvature continuity between the angle of this curve and then the angle of this surface. Okay, and so here's how that works. You click on the actual body of the curve, not on the point of the curve, but on the body of the curve first. Click once, activate the curve, hold down Control, click on the edge of the surface you'd like to create curvature continuity to. That's 2. You can see the options that come up. Then, continuing to hold down Control, click on the surface itself and let go, and you just get this C equals, and that means curvature continuity. If I hover over it, adds equal curvature to the common end of the selections. Click that, and you see what this curve does. It immediately pops into position and lines itself perfectly up with whatever angle this surface is at. This is going to be something that's going to come in play a lot later in our class, so try to remember it. There's no way to find this on the internet or in any sort of the tutorial books that we're going to be covering in class. It's just a trick that you've got to know. Click on the body of the curve, the edge, and then the surface itself, holding the Control button down to create that curvature. Okay, and there we go. Now from here, I'm going to just extrude out another surface off of this profile. It's going to go the wrong direction, so I'll click this reverse direction button, just like that. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now, take a look at what's going on in the design tree. As I extrude these surfaces off, I get a surface extrude that comes into my design tree. If I want to get back to the curves that are driving those surfaces, I can just unfold them, go to the sketch, edit the sketch, and it's no big deal. I can go back to that sketch at any point. I can add like a vertical relationship here. No problemo. There we go. Okay. Just about like that. Okay, cool. All right then. Now I'm going to go to my top plane. I'm going to create a sketch on my top plane. I'm going to look normal too. And again, I'm going to use the spline tool, but I'm only going to create a 2-point curve. 1, 2. Okay? And that's because I want to minimize the number of points in my curve in order to create a clean, smooth flowing curve. Okay, so there we go. So now that I've got this curve laid down, I'm going to attach it to here with a pierce command. So I'll click the point, hold down Control, click the edge, go pierce. Very good. Now I'm going to set up curvature continuity between this sketch and this surface. Okay, so I click on the body of the sketch, hold down Control, click on the edge of the surface, and then the surface itself. Let go of everything, and curvature, equal curvature continuity pops up. I can click that button, and the sketch will line into shape. Okay, so good. So that end is taken care of. Let's do this end now. First, pierce it. Pierce. Now, take the body of the curve, hold down Control, edge, surface, let go, curvature, boom. Practice this a lot and you'll get it down. Okay, there we go. Now if I like normal 2, you can see what this has done now. This curve is perfectly in line with these two surfaces. We are ready to go. Okay, fantastic. Okay, now what's the thing we've been doing all along? Every profile curve that we lay down, we put one of these construction surfaces on. So let's do that as well. I'm going to go to extruded surface. I'm going to go to this bottom profile curve, and I'm just going to extrude a surface. If it goes the wrong direction, just flip it, just like that. Okay, cool. So I'm getting there, and I'm setting myself up to fill in this 3-point degenerate curve situation, and I'm feeling good. Okay, I'm going to call this video right here and just stop it right there because I really want this concept to sink in. The concept that I'm discussing right now is the idea of creating reference surfaces. That's each one of these surfaces right here. Okay, and what these things are going to do, we're going to hide them later on. We're not actually going to see them in our model. We're going to just use them as a thing that we can line up our surface fill to, something we can attach it to so that we can achieve perfect curvature continuity across our parting line. Okay, so replicate this as it is right now, and once you get to this point, you can move on to the next video where I'm going to show you about the same thing we did in class. I'm going to add another profile curve here, but something that I'll do differently is I'm going to add curvature continuity on that profile curve to this surface and this surface. So there'll be one more curve here. And then I'm going to do another curve that's going to go from here all the way to here. And I'm going to put curvature continuity on that curve from this surface to this surface. Okay. And then finally, we're going to run a surface fill that's going to use these 3 boundary edges, or these 3 edges of this situation to fill. And then we're going to use the profile curves differently than we did in class. In the future, we're going to use these profile curves as something called constraint curves, which is something I didn't even touch on in class. Okay? All right, so get yourself to this point, all right? And then once you are, move on to the next video. Okay? All right, thanks a lot for watching.